So I gotta come clean and be straightforward and straight up with you. I owe the Lakers an apology. And I understand that usually you see these sports shows and sports analysts or whatever it is, they'll have a take and they'll stick to it and they'll ride or die with it. And if they were wrong, they'll just never admit it. If you're familiar with me from Heat Beat or social media or whatever it is, that's not me. So we did a LeBron episode, me and Lou, and at the end of it, we talked about the Lakers and we talked about our questions about them, and we don't know how good they can be because they have some inconsistent guys. And that's still a question. But for me personally, I kind of went against myself in the sense of what I usually look for in basketball, and I ignored something. So I'm watching them in this in-season tournament, and they're playing with Jared Vanderbilt, who wasn't there when we did that episode. And now I see what they're doing. When you look at that roster, that defense, when they're all healthy, is going to be pretty ridiculous. When you think about Jerry Vanderbilt, LeBron is more locked in than I've seen him in years on the defensive end. And it's not like he's ever been a bad defender. When you look at, they have Gabe Vincent injured right now. When you look, obviously Anthony Davis, that team defensively is going to be something special, and they've shown it in the tournament.
Oh, 100%, man. They got the identity of their 2020 team. Like, a lot of people want to shit on them because of the bubble, but they were the top defense like all year round. They were LeBron was the point guard year round. AD was having a sensational year. Obviously, the bubble was AD's jump shooting party. And that's the only time he could ever hit a jump shot in his goddamn life. But they were special all year round. They were elite defensively. They got back to that mold of just let's play defense, let's run. They're the only them and OKC are the only teams in the top 10 in pace and in defense. And I feel like this Lakers team with all those 6'9" wings. Shout out to Halliburton. He said not every team has Anthony Davis and a bunch of 6'9" wings. This is a unique mold, and you can run point guard with a 6'8" LeBron James. They're different.
And so we say all that to say, hey, look, to the Lakers, to the Laker fans, whoever may have seen the LeBron episode, I was wrong. I'll admit when I was wrong. I'm not gonna go as far as saying they got something special, but I see what they're doing out there, and I see what they can do out there, and they're not even close to their potential just yet. But when they reach it, it could be something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of Playoff Foul. Now, before I even introduce the show, make sure you like, share, subscribe on YouTube. If you're an audio listener or part of audio audience, make sure you follow the show. Get the downloads right away. They post in the middle of the night. That said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce my co-host here. Lou is out today. He has some stuff to do. But for the first time since the first episode, we got my guy, technically since high school. We got Frankie Garcia back. Frankie, what's been going on and how you doing?
What's going on, man? Sorry, guys. I've been absent from Twitter, Heat Beat, Playoff Foul, so I'm catching up on everything. But I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We had to take a day off during the week. A lot of stuff going on, but we're back now and we're back on schedule. Back on the Monday and Thursday schedule. So for the people who enjoy the show, we've been getting a lot of positive feedback. We appreciate y'all. That said, we're just going to go ahead and get into the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks, in the offseason, they surprised a lot of people. They swooped in with the Dame Lillard trade. Me personally, as a Heat fan, I'm like one out of 3 people who were just kind of relieved that whole conversation was over with. I was fine with it, but I did have my questions about that team. Obviously, Dame Lillard is an incredible offensive player. Defensively, I don't even want to say this, but he's one of the worst. And the Bucks have been hanging their hat on defense for years. And so when that deal happened, Frankie, did you have some of the same questions?
Oh, absolutely. I told right away, I was upset as a Heat fan. But I was like, if we're looking at it logistically, they just lost Drew Holiday. And if you've paid attention to the Heat Bucks battles over the years, the difference Drew Holiday did for the defense. And even though Jimmy cooked them this this playoffs, he's still like a huge point. Like the point, even before him, it was Eric Bledsoe, like who was an all defense guy, big, strong, versatile defender. And they went from those two guys leading the point of attack to Malik Beasley. No disrespect to Malik Beasley, but he's not an all defense level point of attack defender.
Right. And it's so I've caught up with them because look, we're covering 30 teams. I can't watch every game every night, but I've been catching up with them lately, and I will say offensively the potential is there. And they have been working at it. Dame started off the season pretty slow. Well, after that incredible first game, he was kind of struggling. He's sort of gotten himself together. He's been a little more inconsistent than he usually is, but the potential with Giannis as a roller and you having somebody who can pull up from the logo, that still is dangerous. And it is still something that once they figure it out could be tough to guard, especially when you have Brook Lopez out on the three-point line somewhere. And you also have Chris Middleton who can create for himself. Not as well as he once did, but he can still get it done. And so for me personally, I still worry about the offense if I'm an opposing team. But the defense has just been tough.
Yeah, like Drew Holiday gets all the publicity, but they've also lost Javon Carter, Wes Matthews, Joe Ingles. Like those are guys that even though Wes and Joe aren't what they used to be, those guys are smart, tough, good team defenders. Wes was one of those guys that always gave Jimmy trouble. He's strong, he's versatile, he's really, really smart. Javon is super underrated, real tough defender, tough nose. And they replaced those guys with Malik Beasley, Damian Lillard, Campaign, and one of the young guys that I like, Andre Jackson. He's got potential and stuff there, but he's still a rookie. He's still got stuff he needs to learn and grow into. They've gone from the 4th rated in defense to 22nd. Now they've gotten better recently. Shout out to T.I. Windich. I like to shout out guys and girls, of course, that talk about teams and stuff. And he does a really good job for the Gyro Step podcast on Blue Wire. Shout out to our Heat Beat family over there with Blue Wire. But he said he noted that since they went like back to more of the drop, they were in the top 12 in defensive rating. So they're on their way up. And it's real tough when you're changing so much of your identity. It's not just those guys; it's the coach too, the scheme. You guys got to adjust, get to know each other in personnel. And, I'm not going to judge them fully on who they are right now, because we don't know who they'll be come playoff time or as we get. I like to wait for the trade deadline and the buyout market to settle out, and then really see how teams look, how teams are playing. So this team I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to be a tough out. Like you said, the offense can still really be special.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the drop, because Brook Lopez, I don't want to ignore. He had the back issues a couple of seasons ago. He came back last season as a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate, though.
Absolutely.
And so with him and Giannis, even with the defensive questions I have, they're not part of those questions. There are still ways for them to be a decent enough defense, even with Dame Lillard and the guys who can't really defend like that on the perimeter. My only concern is the workload they have, specifically Giannis, who we understand is, look, I don't get into who's more skilled at whatever it is, but most impactful on both ends of the floor. I can't really deny that being Giannis as far as best players in the league. And so, but even still with that, I'm kind of concerned with the workload he'd have to have by playoff time, where him along with everybody else is kind of, I don't want to say tired, but it's obviously nobody has fresh legs at that point. And so the workload he's going to have and the workload Brook Lopez is going to have, and Brook Lopez he doesn't really have the defensive versatility. So if that drop is getting killed, there's not much else they can really do about it. So that's my concern with the Bucks. The offense will be fine. The defense, those two guys will make it, they'll be able to survive. But I don't know how far they can get in the playoff setting, depending on really two guys to anchor a defense.
Yeah, and especially when they're backline guys. And Giannis is really, really good, but he's not a point of attack guy either.
Mhm.
You can switch him on to some guys, but he's still more of a drop level at the level guy. He's not really switch cover point, a speedy guard and stuff.
Mhm.
You want him at his best off the ball, helping in a drop, containing, and him and Brook doing similar things. So and Chris, who I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough, but
Yeah.
his injuries has caused his defense to slip a little bit. He's lost a lot of steps. He was not a guy that teams would target, and
Right.
that's who he's been for the last couple of years since battling these injuries, coming back, trying to play through all that stuff. But he needs to pick it up, and he's gotten better. He's looking more like himself physically, and or like at least a newer version of who he's gonna be. Dame absolutely needs to step it up, and but I think the real big thing is they need some kind of 3-and-D guy at the
Yeah.
two
Mhm.
that'll really like blend things out. Like they need like a KCP type, somebody who
Yeah.
they could throw at the point guard, throw some length. He can hit the catch and shoot three at a high clip. I don't know many guys out there. Maybe like a Royce O'Neal type. I don't
Mhm.
even know what he's shooting this year, but I feel like Brooklyn's got some pieces they might want, but I don't know. We're not a trade show,
Yeah.
but they need that kind of identity. Yeah, Royce O'Neal shooting 39%. That would be nice from them.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, because we've said on the show before, we have different standards for different teams based on what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
The Bucks are aiming for a championship, and they've been contenders for years. They won in 2021, and so just judging them based on that, I do think they're a move away, and it is the exact type of player you said. I will say whether it's a point guard or shooting guard, just kind of have somebody out there to defend somebody at the point of attack.
Yeah.
But I also don't have a specific name because once again, we don't get caught up in hypothetical trades. It's just, for me personally, it's just not that interesting to me. Trade deadline, we're going to kind of have to be forced to do it, but right now it's not the trade deadline. We're not doing that, but I do think the Bucks are probably a move away from getting to where they want to get to.
For sure. Yeah, and it's gonna be tough because they don't have a lot of picks left. They don't have a lot of ammo to send out, but I bet they're hoping for a buyout market kind of guy. And but I'm interested in seeing the growth because a new coach and Adrian Griffin, rookie coach, which before it used to be like a you used to be able to count rookie coaches out. Any rookie coach,
Udoka changed everything.
yeah, Udoka, but Coach Kerr,
Yeah.
like there's been a lot of rookie coaches that have done really good. Ty Lue, when he was a rookie, so you can't. Nick Nurse, like there's been a number of guys who their rookie year have found a lot of success. So, shout out to Adrian Griffin. Hopefully, he gets their stuff together because the Bucks are an interesting team, and you want to see them be their best.
Zion Williamson this weekend got a lot of attention, and for me personally, it's been for the wrong reasons. But we can get into that. Zion right now, and you have some numbers on him, but he's had a very good year so far this year. And aside from his injuries, he's had a very good career so far. But it seems like with him playing in New Orleans, a smaller market, the only time he really gets brought up is for the wrong reason. So I'm watching the play-in game, New Orleans versus Lakers, and there's a side profile of Zion running down the court. And that side profile goes viral, and the topic is Zion's too fat. Me personally, yeah, he could lose some weight. I'm not going to sit here and pretend he can't. But he's been, like I said, a very good NBA player so far. But I'm going to go to you first on this because you tend to have more numbers to back stuff up aside from just me with my eye test. So Zion Williamson, what's your viewpoint on this whole topic?
I mean, like, I get it. I get like he's been disappointing from what he was hyped up, what he was in college. But I feel like we got to keep some of it. Obviously, is the weight, people, it's a real easy topic for people to be like, he's not working hard, he's not the best he could be. It reminds me a lot of a guy he's been compared to in Shaquille.
Yeah.
But like I feel like it's been overstated. Like he's still really good. Like some numbers, he out of the guys who are usage over 20% at 20% or more, minutes, 30 or more minutes, he's in the top 20 in true shooting percentage, ahead of Nikola Jokic. Like he's been good. He's 34th in scoring, which doesn't sound great, but I mean, for this disappointing year, he's averaging 22 a game. He's playing top 10 in potential assists per 100 passes, top 5 in stable and ones per 75. Like he's been solid. He's second in the league in points in the paint per game behind Giannis. Like he's doing pretty well. It's just there's a number of things that he's got to play himself into shape because of all these lower leg injuries and lower body injuries. I definitely think he should be a little bit more slimmer just because all that weight. And he doesn't look as explosive as he used to be. But he's also playing himself back into shape. Like I said, he needs time. You got to give him a break. I think like he's a guy that's always going to be big. You want him to play big. That's part of his game, being physical. It doesn't deter from his ability unless he's losing explosiveness. I think like 20 pounds of leaning it up a little bit might do him some good. But, I try not to like focus on that because he's still playing solid. Like it's not the only thing. There's a number of things with that New Orleans team that they need to work on, like fit wise. But I think Zion's weight has taken too much of the focus.
Yeah, it's for me just watching that team play. His weight is probably one of the last things I'd care to bring up. We were talking before the show started about his playmaking ability, and he wasn't known for that coming out of college and coming out of Duke. Right. But he's one of, I'm not gonna call him a big because power forwards are not bigs anymore technically, but he's one of the better passing front court players in the NBA, I think, right now. The assist numbers don't show up, but me and Lou spoke before about how just depending on how a team plays, you may not have high assist numbers because the ball is moving. Right. And there's different guys initiating in different times. But Zion's initiating offense. He's getting to the basket still whenever he wants. Making those reads when he gets to the basket because he's drawing 2-3 defenders every time he does it. And he's making the correct read. He's making the correct passes. They're on the money. And that's something I want to focus on more. If I had a criticism for Zion, it would be the defense. But that doesn't have anything to do with his weight. He just doesn't make good decisions on defense. And he tends to not close out. And so that's something I would criticize him on before his weight. But as far as the actual play, like you said, second in the league in points per game in the paint, it's just I don't mind the weight topic because, like you stated, and I don't disagree, he could benefit from losing a few pounds. But he's been getting criticized for it, like he's out there averaging 3.9 points a game, and it's really like he's like old Sean Kemp. And that hasn't been the case. 22 points per game, that is solid. Now, with the hype coming out of college, maybe not. But when you consider who he's playing with Brandon Ingram, who he has to share possessions with, share shots with. He's playing with CJ McCollum, who he has to share shots with. They have to also involve Jonas Valanciunas. Those guys are just not going to have as big of individual numbers that you might think they should. And on top of that, their head coach is Woody Green, who anybody who may not remember, he started his coaching career as an assistant in Golden State in 2016. And so some coaches just don't run an offense in a way to where one guy is going to just go out there and average 30. But multiple guys will average 20. And that's what's been going on in New Orleans. Now, the team itself, they could be better because outside of those guys, there is some stuff to work on. Now, Herb Jones, I do want to give some credit for. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA, hands down.
Absolutely.
But that team, and we'll talk more about that team on a later episode, but I think just there's a lot of stuff that leads to Zion's numbers being quote unquote as small as they are in comparison to his hype. And he is a little less efficient than he was in previous years, but how mad am I supposed to get at a guy from going from 61% from the field to 57.5%?
Yeah, it's still a 60.3% true shooting, which is really good. Like his down year, and like I know we'll get into more of it as when we talk about them in depth. But like, there's nobody on the team that's really providing shooting spacing besides Jordan Hawkins. Brandon Ingram shooting below 30%. And like you said, they share a lot of the bulk load, but it's him. Jonas is in the paint too. Like there's a lot, and he's still second in the league in points per in the paint. Like you could help him out with the spacing and stuff. And obviously you would like him to develop more of a jump shot, and like more of a outside the paint game. But he's also like a dominating force, highly efficient inside, good passer, good offensive decision maker. Yeah, defensively he has work to do and more effort and stuff to do. And I think that the weight will help him there too. But yeah, I think mostly like I do want to credit some people like more. I think people just want to see the exciting talent that he was. And like this isn't the dominating player he was his rookie year, and like first instances that we've seen him. Like we want to see more. We want to see that close to 30 point per game score, like that fast break lob kind of guy. Like that was the exciting Zion. Like this Zion is still really good, but I want to see more too. You know, I get it. I get people's criticism, but I feel like the weight is too much of the focus and not enough on the injuries as well.
And the thing about the injuries, because you did also mention they've all been lower extremity injuries.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to give him any excuses, because I understand the viewpoint of he's a professional athlete. He's supposed to stay in shape. But every workout you can think of that's going to help you lose weight, you need your lower extremities for. And if Dave's been injured, he can't run. He can't do these things. It's going to shed those pounds. He, like you said, has to play into shape. And I think he's doing that. And I also do want to acknowledge that he hasn't been injured this season, which is a great thing, because that's been a problem throughout his career. And so if he can stay on that track, and he'll end up playing himself into shape. And I know his former trainer has some stuff to say and some stuff leaked. I don't even want to get into that. It's kind of like, whatever. Yeah. But I will say that even with the weight he has on, we do kind of have to remember too, that probably the most major part of his hype coming into the league was what he could do at his size.
Right.
And so I also don't know how much of the weight is affecting his explosiveness is in comparison to the actual injuries. But I will say the size was kind of always there. He's gotten a little bigger since college.
Yeah.
Who of us haven't? But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's still a very talented player. And the explosiveness is not what it was before, but he's still very explosive. Watching him, like I said before, he gets to the paint whenever he wants to, and he finishes near the top of the league as far as actually doing something about it when he's in the paint. He's not missing these layups and whatever it is. He's still getting it done. And so I do think the weight is just a little too much of a point of emphasis. And because he's still been a very good player. And the New Orleans Pelicans are I'm not going to say very good team, because they have some stuff to figure out, but they are a very interesting team with some solid potential.
No, definitely. And we've seen them in spurts be really solid. Last year, I think it was last year that they were finally putting it all together, and then they got bit by the injury bug at the end of the second half of the season. But yeah, they've when they're healthy, that core has been fun. They got some guys, Jordan Hawkins, as I mentioned before, the rookie out of UConn, Matt Ryan. Shout out to him. He's been a nice pickup for them, shooting the ball really well. And they've done a lot of this without Trey Murphy, who is supposed to be one of their key pieces.
Just came back.
Key floor spacers and defenders too. Like he's a really good player for them. So hopefully they pick it up. I think there's a lot. There's probably some decisions that they'll have to make, but I think Zion. I also hate all the back. I guess it's coming from being a Heat fan. Like we don't get to hear a lot of the talking in the media about a player behind their backs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the most we heard about it was like Hassan, but that was Hassan. And But like it's constant with the Pelicans with Zion. Or something's always leaking about his weight, about this, about his weight, about his weight, about his weight. I'm like, man, come on, like back the guy up or trade him. Like,
Yeah,
do something. Like I'm tired of hearing this.
yeah. It doesn't help your team, and it's just generally speaking, it's pretty corny.
Yeah,
because you chose him number one. You knew what his weight issues were, and he's been open about understanding they are weight issues and they are difficult to kind of keep up with and maintain. Right. I understand once again, he's a professional athlete. His job is to take care of his body. That is a big part of his job, but his main job is being a productive basketball player. And he's never stepped on the floor and not done that.
Exactly.
So,
and it's too much focus about these beignets he's eating off the court. All right, man. Have you ever had a fucking beignet? The beignets are delicious.
I haven't, but it does sound good. I'm not gonna lie to you. In-season tournament final, we had the Indiana Pacers, who we spoke about in episode 1. We'll touch on again in a second. Love that team. Against the Los Angeles Lakers, who I apologized to in the beginning. You have the best offense in the NBA right now, who are on pace to break the 82 Nuggets record for highest scoring team in the season. And I understand, like, most people aren't paying attention to like the history of the league the way I am, but that Nuggets team, keep in mind it's 1982, and they had Alex English and Kiki Vandeweghe both averaging high 20s, 28, 29 points per game, and they also had David Thompson. That team doesn't get talked about enough as far as how good they were, because they always ran into the Lakers with Magic and Kareem, whatever the case may be. But aside from that, the Indiana Pacers are making history right now. And they're getting attention. I can't say it's not being talked about enough, because it is, but we're going to talk about it some more, because I didn't think that kind of record would be, even with the pace now, I didn't think that kind of record would be touched anytime soon.
Man, it's so much fun. Shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, Rick Carlisle. They're the way things are flowing, like guys are really just bought in. Like it's fun. It seems like such a fun offense to play in. Like guys just play unselfishly for each other, move the ball well, and Tyrese just has everybody like flowing like in the right spot. He guys step up for him when he's gone. Andrew Nembhard's been pretty solid for them. TJ McConnell steps up when they need him. Shout out to that game against the Heat. But yeah, man, they're just a lot of fun, and it was cool. Like I know a lot of people had some doubts and questions about the in-season tournament, but I mean, just getting to see a team like Indiana get to make some noise in there, like I think that's cool. Like that's one of the best things about basketball. When you play at the lower level, you coach at the lower levels, like you have Christmas tournaments, you have off-season tournaments, you have their tournaments are part of basketball. Like I don't know why it took the NBA so long to do something like this, because even in college you're doing this. You're having the Maui Invitational and stuff like that during the season. Like I think this was a great idea. I think there's definitely some tweaking that they need to do, but like I think overall it was a great success for the league. Yeah,
and I have a couple tweaks that we'll get to later, but man, just watching this Pacers offense, well, before the Laker game, because the Lakers defense we'll get to in a second once again also. But the Pacers offense just moving at that pace, and Tyrese Halliburton, once again, who we spoke about in episode 1, and I'm just going to say it again, to be honest with you. There's been a very long time since I've seen a point guard with this kind of court vision. And with this kind of the passes he makes, it's not just so much even just seeing the open man, it's having the audacity to make some of these passes. Like wrapped around to the opposite 3-point line to Obi Toppin in his cash. Or just all these through the leg. And there's a lot of assists he doesn't get because the guys missed the shot. It's just like most guys wouldn't even consider trying to make that pass. And he's just doing it with his eyes closed.
Yo, he's looking away guys and throwing weak side skip passes like on the money. He's being deceptive with his eyes, with the no looks, with the jump passes. Like he just has so much in his bag in the passing arsenal. Like he's so fucking fun.
And the jump, look. So you coached high school. I played high school. We both know that before Tyrese Halliburton, jump passes were a sin. You do not leave your feet without knowing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he's just made it like he's made it a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've always, I mean, I guess it's different for me, like because I started watching basketball in 03 when Dwayne Wade was a rookie. So like
Yeah.
I always remember Coach Tony Fiorentino saying anytime Dwayne Wade got in the air, Dwayne knows where all of his teammates are every time he leaves his feet. And it's true. Like when that's the problem with guys with the jump passes 99% of the time. It's they're jumping just to jump and make a pass, but they don't know where everyone's at. I like the elite guys, the Dwayne Wades, the Steve Nashes, the Jason Kidds, the Tyrese Halliburtons. They do it because they're using it as a weapon to get the defense to react, and they're playing off of that. And those guys are special for that reason, and it's fun to watch, man. I like his jump passing is so fun. I love when I love that he finally got somebody athletic to run.
Yeah, man.
Like Obi Toppin. Like I love that move in the offseason. I love the Bruce Brown pickup. I still think they're talking about getting an athletic wing, another one. So I'm hoping we get to see a Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby trade. I think that'd be a lot of fun for them. But yeah, man, they have some really fun pieces, and Tyrese is definitely the head of the snake there.
Yeah, man. That Obi Toppin, I want to shout out again because last season, as we're Heat fans, if we don't say it enough, but watching the Knicks last year in the playoffs, we were just like, Obi Toppin, please keep shooting these threes.
Yeah.
And he gets to Indiana. I don't know what his percentage is, but he looks confident back there and behind that line. And so I want to give him a shout out too, because he's clearly having the best season of his career, finding a role, knowing what his role is. And he just looks comfortable out there. And so he's starting to look like what people thought he would look like coming into the draft.
Yeah.
And so I want to shout him out for that. But
I got you with that. He's shooting a career high 36.8% from three. He's averaging I mean, part of it is minute load. He's playing more minutes than he did in New York. But I mean, he's per 36 and efficiency wise, he's shooting 61% from the field. Crazy 77.5% from two. He's averaging career highs in points, averaging career highs in like almost everything. He's had a phenomenal year. It's just been an insanely great fit for them.
Man, yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to that whole team. But they did run into the Lakers. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I haven't seen LeBron this locked in on defense since 2013. And yeah. And that's pretty crazy considering the fact he turns 39 years old in about 2 weeks.
You think he's more locked in than 2020? I don't know. 2020 he was pretty.
Oh no. Yeah, that's a little tough. I keep forgetting about 2020.
Yeah,
that's a little tough.
He took a break when he was in Cleveland, but
so 2020, 2013, and this year are the best I've ever seen LeBron defend. And that's pretty scary because he's not the best defender on his team.
No, he's definitely not. But he's still so smart. He's cerebral.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they're talking about his mind a lot more on the broadcast because he's older and wiser. But man, he just knows where everyone is at. Everyone's supposed to be in on both teams, and it's always an effort thing now when he's older, just picking his spots kind of deal. And he's not guarding point of attack when they need him to, but he's still big, he's still smart, he's still super athletic. He's just one of the greatest of all times. Praise to him, praise the Lakers. I got some stats for you. Lakers are 7th in defensive rating, but they're 0.3 away from 5, and 2 through 8, they're all separated by like 1.6. So it's like they're all neck and neck right there. I said them and OKC are the only teams in the top 10 in pace and in defense. And over the last 10 games, Lakers have the second best defense and the best of the last 5 games. They've really locked in. D'Angelo Russell was very excited about winning this tournament. And as LeBron accepted the trophy, D'Angelo was shooting shots in the background. That was great.
And when you mentioned all those defensive stats, and then you remember they just got Jared Vanderbilt back.
Yeah.
And
he's special defensively.
Special defensively, and they still don't have Gabe Vincent back. Yeah. Who I understand was struggling shooting. He does that. Like we don't. He does that. But defensively, as long as he's not guarding somebody who's too big for him, he can be one of the best defenders on the floor at times. And so you consider him. You consider Jared Vanderbilt. You consider Cam Reddish and his I don't want to say resurgence because he wasn't known as a defender, but his sort of coming out party is this lockdown defender. You mentioned Anthony Davis, one of the best defensive players in the league. He doesn't get the credit he deserves as far as defensive player of the year votes, which we don't even have to. When award season comes, I'll get into what I think about awards. But that team defensively just has so much potential. And even just now with them kind of getting healthy, being one of the best defensive teams in the league, aside from 2020, I can't think of a Laker team where that was their identity. And that's kind of the scary part, because when you also think about who their coach is, Darvin Ham, and I understand Laker fans are real indifferent on Darvin. Not indifferent, he's very polarizing. But if we're being honest, Phil Jackson and Pat Riley are the only coaches Laker fans have ever liked. And Pat Riley had a real hard time leading up to him leaving LA also. So that just comes with the territory. They expect wins, and they have every reason to expect wins. But Darvin Ham, coming from Milwaukee, on that championship team, they're going to prioritize defense. And I like the fact that he's still there for that team to come together and for the front office to support him in what he's trying to do defensively, because that also doesn't happen. Right. You'll just fire the coach if the team is struggling and just figure something out later, hopefully. But they kept him on, and they gave him a roster where he can really kind of build his philosophy into the team.
Yeah, for sure. They Tyrese Halliburton said that they have a bunch of 6'9" dudes and Anthony Davis. But it's Taurean Prince, it's Max Christie, who doesn't get a lot of love. Like Cam Reddish, like you mentioned, like those guys bring a lot of size, a lot of versatility. Now they got Vanderbilt back, and they get to throw a lot of length and switching, and you get to unlock some extra versatility because LeBron James is 6'8" and he can play the point, and you're going to run the offense through him on the ball, in the post, pick and roll. Like you can play a lot of ways. You can just focus on defense and run and push and mismatch hunt. And you have guys who are shooting the ball well. LeBron's finding them and hitting them in their shooting pocket. LeBron's also shooting 40% from 3 on almost 6 attempts a game. Like D'Angelo Russell's playing pretty solid in like a more of a role than like I'm the guy D'Angelo Russell, which I don't really love, but he's fitting in. He's fitting in, and he's having a really good, solid season for them. They just have a lot of versatility that a lot of teams can't match.
Yeah, and when we talk about the versatility, we mentioned how incredible the Indiana Pacers offense is. And I watched the Lakers successfully trap Tyrese Halliburton, who we just mentioned is probably the best passer in the league right now. Well, just Jokic and LeBron. Like, I'm not going to just put him over them just yet, but arguably the best passer in the league right now. You can make an argument. And I watched him successfully trap him. And the thing to really think about, because I understand, you trap somebody, they're in trouble, whatever. No, because trapping is not just that 2-on-1. It's still, you got these 2 defenders, and then the 3 guys behind those 2 defenders still have to be real sharp on their rotations. They have to be exactly where it's supposed to be, or somebody like Tyrese Halliburton is going to kill you with the playmaking. And I watched the Lakers execute these traps to a T and give Tyrese Halliburton a tough time and give the Pacers a tough time. And so I feel like if you can shut down historically on pace to be the best offense in NBA history, that's saying something. And it's real scary because you also mentioned the pace and how they're near the top of the league in pace, where you have LeBron James running these fast breaks, who at almost 39 years old is still one of the fastest players in the NBA. It's something I picked up on just watching him again recently. And he's passing it to Anthony Davis, one of the most athletic bigs in the NBA, one of the fastest, and who's always going to run the floor if he's not like either complaining to a referee or like holding him. But and he has these guys on the wing. He has these shooters he can pass to. It's just this Laker team is a lot more dangerous than what people may think. And I'm here to say it first. And it's not from a place of, well, we work for a big network, so we're just going to mention the Lakers and say they're dangerous to get views. No, they are genuinely a pretty dangerous team.
100%. It's unfortunately, it's all on the health of Anthony Davis and LeBron James again. But I mean, you could say that about every team in the league, that it's on the health of their top two players. But with Anthony Davis, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And but talent wise, he's still having a really good year. It's just he's got to stay healthy, got to stay consistent, got to be tough in these games, man. I just hate seeing Anthony Davis like kind of just like glide in the game. You know what I mean? Like you forget he's there. Like you forget, you have to mention him. And like there's too many games where he's not as impactful as you feel he should be. And it's difficult because he's a big man. He has to find a kind of force his way into being impactful and being loud, being noticeable. Defensively does a phenomenal job there. Like you mentioned, he's one of the most athletic bigs in the league. I love when he gets out in transition and he gets a stop. He's running, sprinting down there to get an easy seal and hit ahead from LeBron or D'Angelo and dunking it on and getting an and one. I just hope he's just not grabbing his shoulder after that. That's the thing with watching him, man. But yeah, they got a lot of the formula of 2020 and kind of a new school. They not doing it with a lot of shooting. They're doing it running, getting stops, and it's fun basketball. I really like watching them defend. It's a lot of fun. Them how great they are swarming. Trapping, you mentioned the Tyrese game in the tournament and the championship game. Just being able to swarm and recover is tough already. Yeah, as we know as Heat fans. But when you have 6'9" guys, you can play 5, 6, 9 guys at a time. It's a little easier. You can shuffle and recover. But they still got to be sharp on it and not give up open shots, open rotations. And communicate well, and they do a really good job communicating. It starts with LeBron and Anthony on the backside.
Yeah, and that's the difference between the Pacers and the Lakers, and that's why the Lakers had such an easy time beating the Pacers, because the Pacers they don't defend. They are like the old school Nuggets teams, where like, hey, we're gonna score on you, you're gonna score on us, we'll just see who wins at the end of the day. The Lakers' pace starts with their defense. Yeah. And so that's the difference. And so that's also what makes them scary, because if you can score at a high clip and you can't be scored on, obviously you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of important games. And when it comes to playoff time, aside from the Nuggets last year, I think every championship team before that, from 1946 on, had one of the best defenses in the NBA. And so the Lakers, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, it was like I remember Shane Battier mentioned that in like 2014, that it was like every team that had ever won it was like a top 10 in defensive rating, and they weren't that good. So like he that's when he knew they weren't going to win that year. Yeah. But yeah, I think the Cavs in 2016. Oh yeah. Was the year that because they were like 13th or something like that. But yeah, like the Pacers definitely have to kind of find some way to defend better. But the Lakers, it's all about health with them, man. Like they showed you this run. They're a really good team, real tough to beat team. And I remember the panic in the beginning of the season when they lost 2 out of their first 3, and everybody's like, "Oh, are we doing this? Like, who are this? Who are they gonna be? Like, failing LeBron." But I mean, they've been fucking amazing, and they're gonna be another tough out this year.
Yeah, and I still think the Nuggets are the team to beat in the West because we'll talk about Jokic eventually, but he's ridiculous. But I do think putting Anthony Davis on him, it wasn't as successful in the playoffs this last season. But hey, it all comes down to Anthony Davis at the end of the day. Yeah. And I do think his biggest issue, aside from health, is engagement. Because like you mentioned, he does coast through a lot of games. But I think if that's your biggest weakness, you're kind of in a good spot. Overall thoughts on the tournament. So, me personally, the in-season tournament, when they first mentioned how it would be, I was sort of indifferent, leaning towards not liking it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I still don't fully understand the structure of it, even though I watched the whole thing. But I will say, I love it. I'm gonna get your thoughts on it first, and I'm gonna go ahead and give mine.
I really liked it. I like that. First of all, I like that the NBA was trying something.
Yeah.
That they're not being stagnant and stubborn about it. They're like, hey, we need to do something. Let's try this out. Let's give this a shot. And while I didn't love all their ideas, the court designs, I feel I like the idea of a court design for the importance of the tournament. I didn't like the execution of it. I like the idea of the jerseys for the tournament. Not all of it was great execution either. But that's a topic on Nike that we'll get to someday, maybe.
Man.
I also just kind of wish that it was like over like a set time. Like I would rather be like a 2-week period where it's all tournament games.
Yeah.
Or a month, whatever it needs to be. But like this whole thing where like you're playing 2 games a week that are tournament games, 2 games a week that are not, like that was kind of confusing for people. I like that it was every Tuesday and Friday. That got simple, but like they didn't communicate that well enough because like there was a lot of average fans that didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know the difference of when was a tournament game, what was not. So I feel like they got some tweaking to do, but I think overall, I think it was definitely a success. If we were to rate it, I'd probably give it like a B plus.
Yeah, I'd give it about a B also. Maybe B minus though, because the only thing I don't like is leading into it. The point differential thing we can do away with. This, I guess you can just make point differential as important as it is for playoff seeding. Don't make it like such a huge deal because, and I saw some players complain about like the sportsmanship aspect of it. I don't care about that. Want to score up, but for me personally, if you're up 20, I really just don't, because if you have like, let's say an injury-prone star like Anthony Davis, you don't want him out there in the last 3 minutes of a 30-point win. Just let him sit, let him rest, because 82 games is already a whole lot. And I don't advocate for less games because selfishly, I'm a basketball fan. I'm going to watch a ton of games. But these guys do need their rest somewhere, these star players, because you're going to rely on them heavily in the playoffs. And so if they're playing 40 minutes in a game that was decided by minute 27, it's not really all that productive. So I would change that. But I do love just the tournament aspect of it, because the playoffs themselves, it's a 7 games is also a kind of long series. You win 4 out of 7, that's fine. But win or go home in the NBA is special because this is the best time in the world. And they mentioned on some of the broadcasts I was watching during the Laker games, LeBron didn't go to high school. So seeing him in this kind of environment, well, he didn't go to college. Honestly, he might as well have not gone to high school. But he never played in college. And so that win or go home and seeing how he played with those stakes was special. A lot of people, myself included, we don't watch a ton of college. I'm going to get back into college one day. I keep telling myself every year, and I've been telling myself since 2011. But just seeing that atmosphere in December where the NBA is usually kind of dead, like the excitement for the season starting is kind of gone, and now we're kind of just dragging through until the playoffs or leading up to the playoffs or All-Star, which I don't find entertaining anymore, but we'll talk about that in February. But just seeing that kind of excitement and those kind of stakes being played for in December has been a special thing for me. And so I give it a B minus. It could be an A plus, but it drops all the way down to the B minus because I hate the point differential thing.
I definitely get what you're saying. Like you made some good points on it. I just feel like they do need some kind of tiebreaker for that if they're going to do like group play. Otherwise, if you want to do it like full tournament style from the get go, I think that would be really interesting.
I would love that.
Like like you mentioned, single elimination and stuff like that, but it would just be hell for the travel and stuff. So I get that.
Oh yeah.
The aspects of that. But I would be cool with like some neutral site games. Like like they did Vegas for the end of the tournament. That would be cool. Like all these host cities, you do it in college. You plan this out ahead of time. You can do some stuff. Like I would be interested in experimenting like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think they need some tweaking. I get what you're saying on the point differential. I think there needs to be some kind of tiebreaker. I feel like a lot of people that not saying you, but like a lot of people that hated the point differential weren't like saying any differences, any better ideas for like the tiebreaker scenarios. Like tiebreaker scenarios was also really fucking confusing. As it was. Like it got way too crazy at the end, and there was like 11 teams. It was like this is too much. This needs to be simplified a little bit more. But yeah, there's definitely some tweaking. I like the good job so far. Let's do it. I need improvement next year, though. I need a lot of improvement next year because I think you've got something here, and you do not want to lose people on year two.
Yeah, and so I think the idea we both just came up with is this: set aside a couple of weeks, neutral site. I miss the Seattle Sonics, so. And they played a preseason game in Seattle, and it was packed out. So I'd say next season, take like 2 weeks, play the tournament in Seattle. Final Four could be in a different city, and just kind of do it that way. Just win or go home from the beginning. And then the teams that go home, then you have these secret whatever games like they had this year. For the teams that didn't make it, they still had games scheduled. They can play those games on the off days on the tournament, but like you said, just market the tournament games better. Because I found myself a lot of times just turning on a game and being like, wait, the court's regular today was going to, okay, it's not a tournament day. It was a little confusing. So if you're going to have these games at the same time, just be more intentional with the marketing of it. And so that's what I think it is. 2 weeks, neutral site. If you go home, your other schedule comes out and you play games on the off days. I think that's the way it is. But my main thing that I like about it is not only the win or go home aspect of it, but teams get to see what they're going to look like in a playoff sort of setting.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal in mid-December because it's a month and a half from February, the trade deadline. So you really get to see coaching at its best, players at its best, what you're going to have to face, because it is based on conference until you get to the final, who you're going to go against, possibly in the playoffs, what you need to do, what adjustments you need to make with real stakes. It's not like before to where like you'll be doing playoff preview shows and you'll look back and it's like, oh, well, none of the starters played this game, so we have no idea. We just got to see what happens when it starts. Now they're taking these games serious. And so I love that aspect of it. And so that just the tournament needs to stay on that alone because, again, before I was watching a lot of basketball in December because I'm a psychopath. Same thing for you. But you do lose casual fans after that initial season launching of basketball for a while. And so keeping it interesting at this time, and you have less incentive for players to rest There was a lot of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George playing before they got eliminated, and a few other players. So you cut down on players resting. There's real stakes there. The funny LeBron quotes. He's a billion up. Like, he's really taking his 500,000 serious. But it worked out. Everybody played as hard as they needed to play. The coaches were just not out there bullshitting. And so the in-season tournament, I love, but just the 1 point differential thing and make the courts less hideous. That's gonna do it, man. Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 from Playoff Foul. No Lou today once again, but we did have Frankie. Frankie, give me your social media.
Yeah, Kenny said we can only have one Cuban at a time. No, I'm just kidding. Frankie G _. That's Frankie with a Y on Twitter. You can follow me there. Also follow us on Streambeat. We are doing an episode this week with Bruce and Jack Alfonso on our shows of the year. Top 10 shows of the year. Spoiler alert, there's going to be some reality shows on there for me.
Shout out to Moose and Jack. My social media, Kenny Spence NBA. I only use Twitter, to be honest with you, but you can follow me on other stuff. I'll eventually get to posting on there, the Instagram or whatever. It's the same across the board. I'm not going to say a whole bunch of different names. If you like the music throughout the show, that's by my brother, Devin Spence. There's BlackGlowMusic on Instagram. Follow him. He has 2 EPs, BDPs. Stream his stuff. That being said, we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.